We're going live in 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1. What's good, everybody? How's everybody doing tonight? And of course, this is the first StarDock StreamCast that has been done in a long time now. So yeah, this is episode number 5, and I figured tonight is a good night for us to really just discuss essentially what's going on right now in the FGC as we know it. As we know, Combo Breaker passed this past weekend. Got back in town from that on Monday myself, and there's plenty to talk about there, from my own personal experience as well as also, the aftermath in general of it being really the first gigantic tournament for the entire community. I can't really say that. CEO last year did happen, and a lot of people gathered around for that last year. So I can honestly say that really it's the biggest tournament essentially from maybe 2022, where essentially folks like myself could conglomerate with our respective communities and essentially, really just come together and compete and see each other for the first time in years since before the whole pandemic era began. So it felt good to see everybody again. It felt really awesome to actually be able to go out, compete, and actually have the chance to see how everybody's grown, see where everybody is in life now, and essentially get around and about in ways that we have not been able to do so in years. So it felt really good, and interestingly enough, it was it had its fair share of hiccups, but at the same time, what should have been a celebration of a lot of things that had to do with our community has turned into quite the kicking of the hornet's nest on a lot of different topics that have now essentially come back to the forefront of the community. So ultimately, yeah, we got to get right down to the thick of all of this. I mean, first things first, Combo Breaker experience. Of course, this was the first time I'd gone into a tournament in years, since 2019, since before the shutdowns. And this was, of course, during the startup phase of MK11 taking over as the new game of the NRS community. And as such, it was weird. This is also my first time going into a tournament, and since then, not being affiliated with a team. So essentially, I was having to front the brunt of the cost, every ounce of the cost, really on my own, and it had been a long time since I've had to do something of the sort, and I forgot how much doing that can set you back. So I had forgotten how much going into a tournament without being a part of a team or being sponsored in any way, shape, or form, how much that would hurt. But at the same time, you want to know something? It was worth it. It was worth it on every level, and on top of that, we're about to get paid anyway, so it's all good. Yeah, it was quite the event. It was quite the experience, and just talking about Combo Breaker to start things off. Just from my perspective, I just of course, going into O'Hare, and I had to deal with some issues with regards to a hotel not being clean at all or sanitary at all. I had to switch from there to a Motel 6 in order to get situated until the rest of the posse came along on Friday, or rather on Thursday. It was on Friday. I'm sorry. On that Thursday, I essentially had to situate myself as best as possible in a Motel 6, and when I got to that Motel 6 after having not slept for a day and a half, literally a day and a half, I just wound up crashing in the bed and just going out like a light for a few hours. And when I woke up, now going into the event months in advance, it was told to me by Rick that a game Mortal Kombat X, as we all know that we play in here in the StarDock, was going to be represented at Combo Breaker in some capacity. And of course, I had the mindset for months after that was a done deal and it would be a part of the event. But in late April, early May, it was brought up to my attention from Rick himself that, well, in the end, nobody actually did step up to put Mortal Kombat X on the docket for Combo Breaker. So what this in essence meant was that, you know, if I were to actually make my travel plans, which at that point I hadn't, I was going to have to essentially just go over to the tournament, hang out, or just, you know, eat that registration fee, which I had already paid. I'd already signed up for the event, and this was in order to play KOF, by the way. And that I was just like, okay, well, I guess I might not be going after all. I guess I'll just save the bread. But Too Easy stepped up at the last minute to host the event, and as we all know, he put everything forward to go and host the event himself as a community event, along with the rest of the All In Together side of Combo Breaker. And that was how Mortal Kombat X actually did get added at the very last possible second, with the promise of medals and, of course, the pot and everything. Well, there was no bonus, but of course, medals were to be given at the end, and yeah, it was going to be a legit event. And so when I got down to Chicago, it wasn't established how we were going to sign up for the event. It was assumed it was going to happen all in person, and it was also assumed that it was going to happen with Too Easy there. But of course, just on the day that he was supposed to get into town, Too Easy unfortunately wound up contracting COVID, which, yeah, I can't imagine how much of a bummer that was on his side. And I truly hope he's doing a lot better now than he was when he was diagnosed with COVID just last week. I think it was, this last week to the day he got COVID, and so that was horrible to hear. And, you know, if y'all don't know me and Too Easy, man, we trained together for years. We came up together during MKX, Injustice 2. He and I trained together non-stop. If you go back to some of the old school archives here in the StarDock on the stream on my channel, you'll see a lot of our sessions where we were just grinding like crazy, just trying to get the absolute most out of the characters that we were playing and the games that we were playing. And yeah, I wouldn't be where I am now if it wasn't for the sessions that he and I had back in that time. But yeah, hearing that he got COVID and he wasn't gonna be a part of the Combo Breaker with everybody else, I mean, that hurt. I'm just gonna be up front with you, man. That hurt. But in any event, nobody established just what was going to be done, what the protocol was going to be for the sign up. And as I mentioned, I took a nap as soon as I got into my motel on that Thursday. And as soon as I woke up from that nap, all of a sudden, of course, my first instinct is to, check Twitter. And, I just look on Twitter, and as I refresh my feed, I'm seeing a tweet from Too Easy stating that you only have 15 minutes to sign up for Mortal Kombat X, or else you will not be in the tournament. And I'm looking down at this tweet saying, huh? And of course, I'm still half asleep from getting up from this nap. So all of a sudden, I go from being half asleep to being in high alert, especially when I see that tweet was sent out 12 minutes prior to me waking up. And so I am just on my horse, just scrambling to sign up for this tournament on this link that was given. And fortunately, I did so with enough time to spare, along with 35 other entrants to the tournament. And, just 15 minutes for 36 people to sign up. I mean, the sign up, if it was going to happen on Smash, which is exactly where all the signups were handled, if that was going to be done that way, my big gripe about that was that it should have been something that was posted well in advance, so that everybody could have had a chance to sign up for the event that wanted to compete in MKX. And, who knows, considering the way side tournaments were really popping in terms of numbers and popping in terms of interest, we could have probably had upwards of maybe 80, 90, maybe even 100 people sign up for Mortal Kombat X, considering 36 folks did sign up for the event. So it was very likely we could have gotten a lot of folks there. I know, of course, being there firsthand, Rewind was there and he wanted to enter, but of course he didn't see the link until it was too late. And you know, several others were there that wanted to compete in the event, but unfortunately couldn't because it was too late. And yeah, you had a lot of guys there that wanted to compete in it, but sign up's gonna sign up. So it really hurt because I wanted to compete against guys like Rewind and company that were there, but you know, of course, what we did have was Ray Lakers, Cusco, Han Rashid, Sunio, the Chilean brothers Nicholas and Scorpio Prox. And yeah, there were a lot of folks that did sign up. You had Euphoring, who came all the way from Europe to sign up for both MK11 and MKX, and he made top 8, so congrats to him. I mean, ultimately, it was a stacked up little tournament in spite of the fact that you only had 15 minutes for people to sign up. And we put on quite a show, and I was very, very fortunate to win the show. But during the course of the sign up, the registration phase of getting into the tournament and the bag checks, which we'll get into a little bit of that and some more of the combo breaker experience in terms of critiquing, you know, I had to stand outside in the rain for a good 35 minutes. Yeah, that wasn't fun. I even put the video up on Twitter in case you guys wanted to check that out. And also, I had to, you know, of course, go through the part of getting my bag checked by the security company that I was supposed was hired on by Rick, the Hado, on getting everybody situated. And, well, security was, I gotta just be straight up, it was essentially non-existent in terms of actually actively checking the insides and innards of people's things. I mean, if I forget being able to bring food or anything into the event, which of course I didn't do, but if somebody, God forbid, wanted to bring a gun into that venue with how lax that they were checking certain articles, they very well could have. And looking back at it, it's scary stuff, especially when you consider just how crazy things have been recently. But I'll say this right now, Rick, it's been brought up to his attention, and he's already made it clear on Twitter that the security company that they used for the event will not come back anytime soon, and that this was their joker, and yeah, they won't have an opportunity to redeem themselves. So yeah, I expect security on the next Hado run event to be much tighter and much more diligent. But yeah, when in the middle of the tournament, going back to the tournament, it was in the middle of top 8, and well, the guys that were supposed to be casting the event were confused on whether they were going to be casting the event or not, even though it was listed out on the program that they were going to be streaming the event. And what essentially winds up happening is, I'm told by the staff on hand at the event that Net Battles was going to stream the top 8, or the top 6 as it was, and it was shown in the side of the program that Mad City GG was going to be doing it, but Mad City GG was unaware that they were listed in the program to stream the event. And so we wound up waiting half an hour later for our top 6 to begin, or our finals to begin, and that was when everything happened on our side, where of course the event was run and top 6 was streamed, and you know, everybody put out the show that we did, and I was fortunate enough to come down with the victory. And for those of you guys that are curious about why I was laughing up on stream the way I was, it was because a gigantic wave of relief hit me after years and years and years of gunning for a combo breaker win, or a win of that magnitude. And years ago in Texas Showdown 2017, that was a tournament that got away from me, and that was one of the bigger opportunities alongside Combo Breaker 2018 that got away. Combo Breaker 2018, I believe I got 4th place in that tournament. I was either 2018 or no, it wasn't 2018. 2019 I got 4th place. 2018 I didn't qualify for the top 8, but yeah, I really had to live with that Texas Showdown 2017 L for a lot of years. and this was that opportunity to really and finally put that one behind me, while also cherishing the other things that I had with my career. Unfortunately, I'm able to do that now. So, yeah, that's why that moment was so significant for me, and it feels good to have gotten there. But yeah, we were told in the middle of the top 8, unfortunately, that our medals weren't going to be on time, or that they weren't at the event at all, and it was doubtful considering just what kinds of requirements were necessary from the fulfillment company to even get them going, that we were going to get them in spite of them being promised for the event. And, of course, after speaking with Rick, after having years and years and years of strife with the NRS community, always having something like this happen where a lot of us community members not getting our proper due at an event after being promised such and such and such and such, and just essentially having gone through all the craziness that I have over the course of my time with the community. I spoke about it with Rick both in DMs and in person, and Rick being the TO that he is, he was a man of his word. He got in touch with the fulfillment company, who made it clear that they were going to send us our medals after, of course, everything got fumbled on their end. And we are going to wind up getting those medals along with the other events, side events and main events that didn't have their awards on time, by way of the fulfillment company taking care of their orders and supplemental orders. So, dude, the FGC's in good hands with guys like Rick leading the charge when it comes to organizing events. I gotta say, yeah, I was already well aware of how diligent he was when it came to doing his job, following up, and then, of course, taking care of the bits after the event is concluded, and not just hanging it up and saying, "Oh no, Combo Breaker's over. Yeah, bring your complaint to the next event," or "Yeah, it's not my problem anymore." Yeah, like so many other TOs have in the past, and just been completely and utterly neglectful and ambivalent to what's going on with regards to how their event may or may not be shafting a certain sect of the FGC. Rick's not one of those. I can say that, man. Hado, he's solid stuff, man. He's solid stuff, and it's painfully obvious with Evo now having him as the general manager of the event that the FGC is in very good hands if he is the one actually putting everybody's events first, especially with how much credence he gives just about every fighting game on the docket, regardless of whether it's new hotness or one of the classics or a game you probably never even heard before. He treats them all equally, and want to know something? We all deserve that much, because that gives everybody extra motivation to really just play what they want to play what makes them happy. And that's the big reason why I supported Combo Breaker and going, when it was made clear that, of course, MKX was going to be there, and that it being one of those titles that genuinely makes me happy. I was able to go over there and support, and that's why I say when it comes to Combo Breaker and anything he runs, I'll definitely wind up supporting it because of the fact that he shows all the games the love that they do, instead of just saying, "Oh no, we're just going to cater to Street Fighter. Oh no, we're just going to cater to Namco Bandai. Oh, we're just going to cater to anime," or whatever the case may be. He's not like that. So that was great from that perspective. But I managed to go over to there and win a couple $100, and I'm fortunate, and considering the fact that I knew that it wasn't one of the games that was on the main lineup, but at the same time was at Combo Breaker, I knew there was going to be a payout. And considering who was able to sign up for the event at Combo Breaker with Mortal Kombat X, and with regards to the payouts, essentially, going around, I'm not in any way, shape, or form complaining about what I'm getting out of it, which is a couple $100, a little more than a couple $100. So I'm very happy with what's gonna come my way on all of that. But you talk about a topic right now that is pretty significant right now in the FGC, and it's been significant not just in the aftermath of Combo Breaker this year. It's been a topic that's been pretty significant throughout the course of the fighting game community's history. So, going way back when I started, just playing in tournaments in the arcade areas of movie theaters, because that's the first place I ever played in a tournament, was the arcade area of a movie theater. And then going from there and traveling the locals and going and doing all the craziness that, I did back in the day before I got going myself when it came to going to majors and competing in big tournaments in 2012. Prize pots and prizes in general when it came to winning tournaments ranged anywhere from a nice looking video on YouTube to a t-shirt to a free movie to a gift card to Subway, a few bucks, and sometimes it'd be winner take all, or sometimes it'd be top 3 getting paid. But back in those days, and of course you had a lot of tournaments back in that time where you win a tournament, you win an event, you get a fight stick, which was a cool prize to have, especially if you were looking to get started with playing a stick, which at that time I was playing on pad and I was learning how to play on stick during the time that MK9, I should say, was about to release. And you could trade in the stick for a few $100, sell it on eBay, or do whatever you want with it, play on it, or just keep it as a trophy, or just make good use of the few extra $100 that you would make from the tournament, or just a few bucks that you would get. I mean, it was all small, and the FGC was in its infancy in terms of the new generation of how tournaments were run, and new generation of how tournaments were essentially, able to compensate players for their efforts. But at the same time, grassroots FGC back in that time was a different beast compared to what it is now. I mean, nowadays, folks, regardless of what kind of tournament you're in, and no matter how big the tournament is these days, I mean, heck, recently at Austin Night Fights, it was just myself and Morden, and we played a first to 10 in order to win the whole entire event, as well as the pop bonus on top of the event, because we were the only ones that showed up for MKX, and I wound up winning a good chunk of change right there for my effort right there in that set. But didn't complain about it. I love what I play. I play what I love. I don't do it to get rich. I do it because it's what I enjoy to do. I mean, if you're in the FGC to get rich, well, that's exactly where this story comes in and essentially lets you know you're thinking about a dream that, honestly, I don't say very few people achieve, because a few have, but at the end of the day, even their levels of compensation, even their levels of financial prowess, if you will, is limited compared to what you'd see in different sects of esports. And as such, it's not something that you should turn into a priority if that's what you get into the FGC for. And from my side of things, NRS games, I mean, that's especially true when you think about the state of our community right now, where the game that the masses are playing right now in MK11 isn't exactly carrying the day financially speaking, in terms of pop bonuses, in terms of entrance to events, in terms of people traveling. I mean, you got people that host events online. You've got the Coliseum, you got Slayer. I know things happen over in Diddle Dome and whatnot, but you got people that do things online. And of course, recently there was the whole We Play saga over in the Ukraine, which I pray for all of my Ukraine friends. If you're still over there in Ukraine or wherever you are in the world, I hope you're safe. I hope everything's going good for you, considering the circumstances that are happening right now. And I hope everybody in general that's watching, listening to the StreamCast podcast, I hope you're all doing well, and I hope everything's catching you at a good time, or able to at least give you a talking point for the time being. But We Play was dishing out big money, of course, during the course of MK11, I would call it its twilight years. And of course, that was taken away because of the devs, not liking the thought of some of the people behind it being the folks, behind ESL, with the whole gambling scheme and everything that was going on back then during the ESL days in MKX, where ESL's still going. So that was a bad call in hindsight, getting away from ESL and then of course getting away from We Play, taking that away from the MK11 community. And my thoughts on that particular game be damned and be put aside. It was a very, very unfortunate thing to take away from them, considering that gave them a whole nother platform to take that game to the next level. And when you consider the production value of We Play, it was next level. And everything that came those players' way playing that game through the We Play platform, it was very much something that could have done our community a lot more good than harm. But whatever at the same point, I can leave some of that alone. But at the end of the day, it's a very fine line on what you want to support your community and, you know, what your community can do to sustain itself, and whichever one, I suppose, makes everything more prosperous in the end. Well, you know, whatever happens. But it's painfully obvious with the showing at Combo Breaker, even though this was, like I said, one of the first tournaments, if not the first tournament so far this year alone, where, you know, a giant tournament like this, where we could see, well, this is the most prevalent tournament so far this year. No offense to any other tournament that's happened so far this year. This is the most prevalent tournament that's happened so far this year, where we can really get a good idea of just what the state of the FGC looks like. I mean, for example, you know, you take Guilty Gear. Guilty Gear had over 1,200 entrants, well over 1,000 entrants for that game, and the pool that was spread out for everybody pay wise was $4,435 and some change to the winner, which was Tempest NYC. And from what I can see, not a lot of Japanese came over or anybody else came over internationally, besides, of course, there's Peppery Splash from Canada and Zando from Israel, which, hey, shout outs to those communities. But you've got the majority of it being US, and you've got second place being $2,534 and some change, third place $1,478, fourth place $844, fifth place and sixth place shared $422 and some change, and seventh and eighth place shared $211 and some change. Okay, so the winner of that event gets $4,400. Back in the day in MK9 during 2011's finals, where you had Perfect Legend winning that event, I believe he said that in that event he took home about $3,700. That was an event that had about 500 people. That was an event that had 500 people. He took home $3,700 at that time. All right, this obviously isn't Evo, but at the same time, and of course, there's almost double the amount. There's well over double the amount of competitors in this event compared to what you'd have in Mortal Kombat 9 at that time. But in this tournament here at Combo Breaker, Tempest NYC winning $4,435 and change, and Perfect Legend only winning $3,700 for that time. Growth in numbers of people that play, but not in the amount of money they're paid. Now, granted, we're talking about Guilty Gear, and of course, we're talking about the fact that $10 fee for games to get into games nowadays, it's no different now than it was back during those times, where to get into a certain game, yeah, it was a $10 fee, and we're just talking about just the game fees. And essentially, you know, that's the delta. And in this day and age, with this tournament right here, with I believe it was Nicholas winning Mortal Kombat 11, the payout on Mortal Kombat 11, which had only 153 people sign up, which is a far cry from what we had during the course of the first tournament that happened at Combo Breaker for MK11, which was well over 1,200 entrants in its own right. The pot for this game with no pot bonus saw upwards of only $600+ to the winner and $30 to the guys that got 7th and 8th places. Let that sink in. At Combo Breaker, a tournament, Grand Slam tournament, MK11, you're talking about only $600, in excess of $600 to the winner of that tournament. And it's a main stage game, part of the main lineup. $600 to the winner. And then it, of course, gets fragmented down to the point to where at the bottom of the pay scale, you've got $30 and change going to 7th and 8th place. You know, folks, the big thing to take away is this. Of course, now we've got things like Matcherino, which of course allows people to crowdfund polls, pots, and all different kinds of other ventures that you so choose to do so. But the community, everybody in general, has to step up and do something, do their part in that particular facet, because people say such and such and such and such can be done. You know, you can put a Matcherino on a pool, on a tournament. You can say that people can donate to the pot. You can say the developers can donate a certain amount of money to the pot. But when it gets to the point where the FGC is at the point where it is now during the course of this pandemic era, where if you've got dev support where your dev is actually putting money towards your pool for that game, good for you. If not, and your community has to step up in order to essentially bring those giant loads of money to the players that are actually competing, then at that point the community either has to do its part in one of several ways. Bring in the registration numbers and get more people to sign up for the tournament and travel to those tournaments and compete in those tournaments. Don't just sign up for the event and, you know, just DQ or not go or whatever the case may be, but actually sign up for the event. Or if you can't make the event, but you want those players, you want the pot, you want your game to actually have the financial backing behind it to actually sustain itself so that your viewing pleasure can be satisfied seeing the game played at a high level at that event, put forth the money in either a Matcherino, put forth the money yourselves in a pot in a way that can be done so that that game can continue to flourish and for it to not just wind up being a one-off and not just being something that died because it didn't have the community support that you think it needed and deserved. So there are avenues around this now. I mean, when you look at prize pots now, I mean, we're not competing against the likes of, you know, the big MOBAs, or for that matter, the first-person shooters, the Counter-Strike Global Offenses of the world, the Fortnites of the world, the Apexes of the world, or the Call of Duties of the world. We are not at that level as far as esports is concerned. Even during the course of the biggest levels of momentum that our communities have had with regards to esports, whether it being a third-party entity like MLG, ESL, WePlay, all of them stepping forward to try and do our companies good in that facet, or the developers themselves generating their own circuits that allow people to go and play the game at a high level for ridiculous amounts of money, whether it be, of course, Capcom Pro Tour, the Tekken World Tour, the pro competitions, the Pro Series that NRS used to do for our games, Arc Revo for all of the anime games. It's a different time when you actually have to do all of that, you know, from a community standpoint. And if you don't have those particular ways of doing that with those the developers doing it or the third parties, and your community has to step forth, well, your community's got to do its part in order to fund the game. I mean, looking at the way things are now compared to where they were when I started, you know, if you got a triple-digit payout for winning a tournament, a local tournament or a major tournament or whatever the case may be, you know, you were like, okay, I'm balling a little bit. But nowadays, that is the minimum standard behind which you expect all of top 8 to get paid. And that's just with within the last 10 years. That's just within the last 10 years alone. We're talking about other communities in those other genres that I just mentioned a few moments ago that have now gotten to the realm of, teams being able to house players. You've got your esports teams, your Cloud9s, your Liquids. Once upon a time, we had teams like Echo Fox in our community and all that were paying players ridiculous amounts of money, rooming and boarding them up all together so that they could practice together, get the kinds of practice against the best, nutrition with the best, compensation of the best, financially, living wise, and in other facets of benefit, that they could wind up continually playing at the best of their ability because, well, their financial futures depended on it because they were competing for a team and representing a brand, and they didn't want to make any of that look bad by poor play. So, but when you get right down to it, our community right now does not have the cash flow necessary to just simply be self-sustaining by way of the community itself. Not right now. The teams that were involved in our community before, of course, we still have, teams like Panda Global out there that are sponsoring guys, which is great. You have new teams. You got new teams where, you got to wonder what they're offering folks that now that they've had a chance to cycle some people through some new events. But, the guys like what we had in Noble, and you had teams, of course, Broken Alliance, who I was a part of. I was fortunate to be a part of during the course of my time. You've got a lot of different teams that, just aren't there right now, just aren't in the community right for the moment. And it's just one of those things where now the community, if a lot of big players want to go out to events, they're essentially going into their own personal streams and asking their streams to essentially crowdfund their efforts to get to events right now. And I can tell you first, that's not sustainable to the extent where